Joining us this morning, the day before primaries in North Carolina and Indiana. It's another beautiful day in downtown Arlington. Howard Wolfson, Communications Director of the Clinton campaign. On the phone with us is Geoff Garin, our Chief and Senior Strategist. And joined with me, always here on the flight deck, is our Deputy Communications Director, Phil Singer. I'm going to turn the call over to Geoff to talk a little bit about what we expect in North Carolina and Indiana. Phil will talk a little bit about some breaking news this morning, and then we'll be happy to take your questions on these and other topics. So, Geoff?
Thank you, Howard. What we expect is a result that will look a heck of a lot better than things looked for us a month ago in each of these states. Just to remind everybody on the call that these are two states where Senator Obama began the campaign with very substantial advantages. The polling a month ago today on the Real Clear Politics average had Senator Obama up by 7 points in Indiana, so that's the baseline for him, a state where he is, since that point, has outspent us significantly, and a state where somewhere between a fifth and a quarter of the vote will be cast in his home media market, where, by the way, over this weekend he felt obligated to go place a very major buy in a market where we have not advertised at all, and so that Indiana, where we were started 7 points behind, and we believe we've made substantial progress since then. In North Carolina, we faced an even more difficult situation a month ago in the Real Clear Politics averages, and frankly in our internal polling. We were down by close to 20 points. We feel that we've made, in both states, a good case to the voters that there is a difference between the two candidates in terms of their understanding of the economic challenges that people are facing, in terms of their willingness to take action now to relieve some of the economic pressures that people are facing, particularly from high gas prices, and in terms of their knowledge and leadership to make long-term changes to really fix the fundamental economic problems that will be left behind at the end of the Bush administration. So we've made a very focused case in both states. We believe that we've got things moving in the right direction in both states, but we recognize that in North Carolina and in Indiana, we've started at a disadvantage. We've been outspent in both states. So, but we do feel that against the baseline of a 7-point Obama lead and a 17-point Obama lead just a few weeks ago, that we'll get this race certainly in Senator Clinton's direction. And I do think that that's an important way to judge this, is the progress we've made over the course of those past few weeks. So, Howard?
Thanks. I'm going to turn it over to Phil, but just briefly to echo what Geoff said. The Obama campaign released a memo that they had done some months ago that sought to predict the outcome in each of the upcoming primary states. And to their credit, the memo was very accurate, with one exception, as to which candidate would win each of the upcoming states. The Obama campaign, interestingly enough, predicted victories in Indiana and North Carolina for Senator Obama, predicted, in fact, a 7-point victory in Indiana for Senator Obama. So that was the hurdle that we were seeking to surmount in Indiana. A flat prediction of victory on the part of the Obama campaign, a prediction that was, by the way, reiterated yesterday by Joe Andrew on television. And so we have done what we could. Despite being outspent, Senator Clinton has worked hard And as Jeff says, we believe that things are moving in the right direction. But these are two states that Senator Obama predicted that he would win. They're two states that he expected to win. And our positive movement in those states, especially in Indiana, is indicative of a real tide moving in Senator Clinton's direction here over the last several weeks. And with that, I'll turn it over to Phil, who will talk about some important late-breaking news of the morning and day.
Thank you, Howard and Jeff. I just wanted to direct everyone's attention to this morning's Wall Street Journal. The Wall Street Journal is reporting this morning that Senator Obama won the endorsement of the Teamsters after he told union officials in private that he supported ending the consent decree that has helped root out corruption from the union over the last several years. Interestingly, in the story, his campaign confirms that position and says specifically that he supports lifting the consent decree. This morning, he was on Good Morning America and was asked about this report. Diane Sawyer asked him, did you make the commitment to the Teamsters that you would support ending strict federal oversight of the union? And Senator Obama answered, quote, I wouldn't make any blanket commitments, and proceeded to discuss how he was open to looking into lifting the consent decree, thereby contradicting what his campaign told the Wall Street Journal. Look, reasonable people will have differing opinions as to whether or not the consent decree should be lifted, and that's not the issue here. Senator Obama is perfectly entitled to that opinion if that is indeed what his opinion is. He seems to have told the Teamsters, however, that he is for lifting the consent decree. That's a view. Something that the Teamsters have certainly taken away from their discussions with him and from his campaign. His campaign said it on the record this morning in the Wall Street Journal. And so one has to wonder what exactly Senator Obama's position is, given the fact that he is now saying on national television that he made no blanket commitments. So we look forward to hearing what Senator Obama has to say on this matter, what his campaign has to say with regard to this contradiction, and whether or not they, what his actual position is. It's also quite curious that It's also quite curious that Senator Obama has taken the position of wanting to lift the consent decree, but hasn't bothered to tell any voters that he took that position until this morning's report in the Wall Street Journal. Clearly, Senator Obama prides himself on, likes to brag about how he takes positions that are controversial. In this case, it would appear as though he's taking a position in private and not telling the voters about that view. And one has to wonder why that is. So with that, I think we will open it up to questions and take it from there.
Okay, participants, if you have a question, please press star 1 on your telephone keypad. This will place your question in the order it was received. Once again, if you have a question, please press star 1 now. And we'll take our first question.
Hey, this is Tommy Christopher from AOL News. How you doing?
Good, thanks.
All right. My question, your campaign has spoken very passionately about the need for the gas tax holiday, and it's been a major issue over the past week. And yet, I noticed that your newest ad that you're running in Oregon doesn't mention the gas tax holiday. I'm wondering, does that mean you're rethinking your position on that, or does it mean you expect that to already be passed by the time you get to Oregon? And the second thing, I was also wondering if you guys could respond to the follow-up I sent you on Thursday.
The answer to your first question is neither, and I expect that we will be continuing to talk about and advertise about the gas tax in the coming days and contests. And I'd welcome if you could resend the email you're referring to. I haven't seen it, so I apologize for that.
All right, we'll take our next question. Yes, reporter, you may ask your question. All right, we'll take our next one.
Hey, Glenn Thrush with Newsday.
Morning, Glenn.
Good morning. Mike Easley yesterday said, in reference to a potential protracted flight all the way to the convention, that he thought this going to the convention wouldn't be bad for the country and it wouldn't be bad for the party. First question is, do you agree with that? And the second question is, there was a report yesterday on HuffPost by Tom Edsall reporting that you folks were feeling pretty bullish about being able to pass a Michigan and Florida resolution through the Bylaws Committee. Is that report accurate? Thanks.
I didn't exactly hear what Governor Easley said.
What Governor Easley said, I can read you the direct quotes, but it's a pretty close paraphrase that he said that a fight all the way to the convention wouldn't be bad for the country and wouldn't be bad for the party.
Well, look, I think that anyone who can accurately tell you how this process, or anyone who tells you that they can, I think anyone who can tell you accurately, or sorry, there seems to be some feedback, Glenn. I think anyone who can tell you that they know accurately how this process will play out between now and the convention is likely to get it wrong. We have seen consistently that there have been twists and turns in the road in this nominating process that have been unanticipated. We have several more important contests yet to come between now and June 3rd. And so in terms of predicting what is going to happen, I'm not in a position to do that. And I don't think anybody, frankly, is in a position to do that. I think, broadly speaking, though, that this contest has been good for the Democratic Party. The fact that we have enrolled so many more Democrats into our party has been good. The fact that there's been so much participation has been good. We've had record turnout, not just in the places that Senator Obama won, but also in the places that Senator Clinton has won. And so I do think that this contest has been good for the party. And how it plays out going forward, I think really, honestly, I'm not gonna predict, and I don't think anybody really is in a position to accurately predict. I think the only thing, frankly, that we can predict with any accuracy is that we don't know exactly how this nominating process is going to play out precisely between now and the convention. As to the second question, I did read the story. I was frankly surprised to see that we had a quote-unquote secret plan to seat the Florida and Michigan delegations, when in fact those of you who are on these calls with us know that not generally a day goes by without us calling for the DNC to seat the delegations from Florida and Michigan. So if it's a secret that we want the delegations from Florida and Michigan seated, it's the worst kept secret in American politics. It's something that I say, Phil says, our candidate says, the campaign says on nearly a daily basis. So yes, we believe that the delegations from Florida and Michigan ought to be seated. We've said that consistently. The process of seating them is a transparent process. It is a public process. It goes through the DNC, and I do not know how that process will play out. I'm not going to predict that one way or the other. You know, Phil follows this as close as anyone. I'll have him weigh in, but I think anyone reading that story would be surprised to see that our desire to have Florida and Michigan seated is somehow described as secret, when in fact we almost daily call for those delegations to be seated.
This is Phil. Not only do we call daily for the delegations to be seated and for the votes to be honored, but there is a process written into the DNC rules for adjudicating these very types of situations, and that process is being followed. One of the ironies, I'm not sure if that's the right word, someone pointed out to me I often use the word ironic in a wrong manner, but we will stipulate that today I'm using it in the correct manner. But one of the ironies of this process is that the Obama campaign has espoused repeatedly what are basically tantamount to backroom deals to resolve the situations in Florida and Michigan, proposals that would completely ignore the votes that took place in both Michigan and Florida. And before anyone follows up by saying, but Senator Obama wasn't on the ballot in Michigan, let us not forget that Senator Obama made a political decision to remove his name from the ballot in Michigan. He voluntarily removed his name from the ballot. In addition, a number of Senator Obama's allies lobbied and encouraged GOTV efforts to run up the number of votes that a candidate by the name of Uncommitted got in Michigan. So the bottom line here is that while the Obama campaign has advanced proposals that would ignore what the 2.5 million people in Florida and Michigan said with their votes, the Clinton campaign has embraced an open and transparent process, and that process is currently underway, and we await to see what the outcome is, and we'll take it from there.
But Glenn, you have a sense of what we thought about the post, but to your narrow question, I don't think we're in a position to make a prediction about how that process will play out. Next question.
All right, we'll take our next question.
Hi, guys. It's Daniel Nassau with the Guardian newspaper. Back to the gasoline tax. The senator said on television, she indicated that if her gasoline tax holiday were implemented effectively, that it would allay some of the criticisms that the plan has been getting. And she mentioned in particular a tax on the oil companies to make up for the lost revenue. But what would you guys do, say, to make sure that gets passed on to the consumers and not pocketed by the oil companies or the refiners, or to prevent the price, in fact, from going up when demand increases?
Very good question, and I appreciate it, because this is, of course, this debate over the gas tax is a central one in the closing days of this nominating contest. And I will answer your specific questions on policy, but I first want to make a point that this debate really speaks to a larger set of differences between the two candidates. Senator Clinton understands the needs and concerns of middle-class, working-class voters. She has consistently advocated for a set of policies in this campaign that demonstrates that. The gas tax is the latest example, but it's not the first or the only. We are the candidate in this race with a plan to cover every single American with health care. Senator Obama leaves 15 million people out. We have the boldest and most aggressive plan to address the housing crisis by freezing the foreclosures of subprime borrowers, freezing the interest rates of subprime borrowers. Senator Obama disagrees with us on that, does not support those measures. So Senator Clinton has been the candidate in this race who understands what the kind of pain that working class and middle class families are going through. She has consistently advocated a set of policies to address those concerns. And Senator Obama has not followed suit with a set of policies that are as bold as ours. And when I'm asked on these calls, why is it that Democrats are concerned about the fact that Senator Obama has not received the votes of working class and middle class voters in Ohio and Texas and Pennsylvania, I say, there are policy differences here. Look at the records. Senator Clinton is farther out front proposing a set of policies that would help middle class and working class voters than Senator Obama is. And she is the candidate in this race who is fighting for them, who understands their needs and their concerns. Now, to your specific question, one of the tragedies of the last 7 years of the Bush administration is how the regulatory regime in this country has been allowed to lay dormant. And industries like the oil industry have essentially been allowed to set their own prices without any fear of governmental oversight. Senator Clinton believes that we need to reinstitute a very strict and serious regulatory regime so that any price collusion or price fixing on the part of the oil industry and oil companies would be swiftly investigated and dealt with. And that would be a major break from what we've seen in the last 7 years, and I think would address the concern that you raise as to whether or not consumers would get the savings passed on to them. Secondly, the question of increased demand. The biggest problem we have, I think, today, or the biggest problem that so many drivers are facing today, is the fact that that gas is becoming simply unaffordable, not for pleasure, not for cruising up and down the strip, but for the basic necessities of life, driving to work, picking up kids at school, truckers finding it increasingly difficult to get their goods to market in a way that they can make a living. So I don't think we're talking about dramatically increasing the amount of gas that people will use. I think we're talking about finding a way to help them use the gas that they need in order to ensure that they can go about their everyday lives. Now, finally, I want to make clear for folks who are just tuning into this, our proposal is different from Senator McCain's. We have a way of paying for ours. Ours is fiscally responsible. We don't believe, as Senator Obama believes, that consumers ought to pay the gas tax this summer. We believe that it ought to be paid for by the oil companies. And, of course, we have a very ambitious and comprehensive long-term plan to address our dependence on foreign fuel, including the boldest increase in CAFE standards, $50 billion in investments in green-collar jobs and green research. And so this is a critically important issue. I'm glad that it is being debated in a serious way. It is a serious distinction between these candidates. And I think it also speaks to a larger point about Senator Clinton's candidacy, some of the differences that she has with Senator Obama.
I do think this is part of the reason where we think the reality on the ground is very different from the economic theory, is that somehow that people in places like North Carolina and Indiana are doing a lot of joyriding these days with $3.75 gas, or that they will go out and do a lot of joyriding if they get a break on the gas tax. Is that people that most of the driving people are doing is a matter of necessity. They are commuting to work. They are earning a livelihood. They are taking their kids to school or taking their parents to the doctor. And so that the idea that that all of a sudden we're going to drive up demand, I think misses the reality of people's lives, and what's happening to them is they're struggling to meet their family budgets. So we do think there is a disconnect there. And the other thing is that while Senator Clinton is committed to a very vigorous increase in investigations of oil company pricing, really making sure that that their books are open. The idea that they're going to fill the void is sort of based on an assumption that they're not already charging every single penny they can. That the gas prices today that we have are purely a function of market forces. We think that that's a naive view of how the oil companies are doing their pricing at the pump, and that they're already charging every penny that they think that they can get away with. But so I think there are a series of disconnects. The most important one is this notion that somehow that we've got a lot of people who are doing a lot of joyriding, or going to start doing a lot of joyriding because we're giving them a break on the gas tax.
And that was Phil talking right there?
Jeff.
No, that was Jeff. Howard, and then it was Jeff.
Okay.
Getter.
Thanks a lot, guys, for identifying yourselves.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry, we'll do that. Next question.
Yeah, this is Gordon Trowbridge from the Detroit News. Wanted to follow up on the discussion of the Huffington Post item about Michigan and Florida. As I read the piece, the secret part was not necessarily that you wanted Michigan and Florida seated, but that the campaign could mount an active effort at the May 31st Rules and Bylaws Committee hearing to seat not just parts of the delegation as the two challenges have sought, but full delegations from both states. Can you tell us whether or not you have any plans, the campaign has any plans, to make any sort of formal proposal or to encourage supporters to propose that the full delegations from the states be seated?
Well, I think we've repeatedly said, this is Phil, we have repeatedly said on these calls and elsewhere that we think that the delegations should be seated in accordance, that they should be seated, and that the votes that took place in Michigan and Florida are legitimate, that they count, and that it is a disservice to our democracy to ignore the 2.5 million people and to disenfranchise the nearly 2.5 million people who voted in Michigan and Florida. There are currently challenges pending before the Rules and Bylaws Committee, and those will be adjudicated, I believe, at that May 31st meeting. So that's where things stand, and we await the outcome of that process. And that's really where the situation lays right now.
All right, we'll take our next question.
Hi, good morning. This is Jitendra Joshi with AFP. I just wanted to come back on the Senator Clinton's remarks about Iran. Senator Obama has suggested this is irresponsible electioneering, which does not contribute in a prudent way to the debate. And some have suggested it's an attempt by your campaign to tack to the right and therefore undercut Obama on one of the biggest foreign policy questions facing the next president. I'd be grateful for your response to that.
Hi, this is Jeff Guerin. I think it's important to be clear that Senator Clinton's comments were in response to a very specific question. That is, what would the United States reaction be if Iran gained nuclear weapons and launched a nuclear attack on Israel? This is not a question of her general policy toward Iran, but what do we want Iran to know about what we would do in that specific case? And in that very specific case of Iran launching a nuclear attack on Israel, Senator Clinton believes it is important to leave no question or no doubt in the minds of the leaders of Iran that they would face massive retaliation on our part. She believes that is the best way to deter an attack. But this is there was a statement in response to a very particular question, and frankly, we think it's dangerous, and she does, to leave any confusion in the minds of the Iranian leaders about our resolve in that particular situation. When confusion exists in those situations, it leads to a really dangerous environment. And but more broadly, in terms of Iran, Senator Clinton has talked about the need to move to a different kind of more constructive level of diplomatic engagement. That her response is not only about letting Iran know what our reaction would be in the case of a nuclear strike by them. She has a much more nuanced policy that includes a much greater use of diplomatic engagement of Iran than has occurred under President Bush. So it's very important to report the entirety of her position and make it clear that what she was talking about here very specifically related to the question of what our response would be if Iran launched a nuclear strike on Israel.
Okay, we'll take our next question. Yes, reporter, you may ask a question.
Yes, good morning. This is Heather Houseworth with NHK. Could you please confirm how much you were outspent by in Indiana and North Carolina, and also how much money the campaign has been able to raise after the estimated $10 million that came in online? after winning Pennsylvania?
Yeah, let me get you the numbers of being outspent. We were outspent in Indiana by $2.4 million, 5.6 for Obama, 3.2 for us, and outspent by about $1.3 million in North Carolina, 4.9 for Obama, and 3.5 for us. So all told, about $3.7 million outspent. And in terms of our fundraising, our fundraising tends to be strongest around elections and at the end of every either month or quarter, depending on the filing period. As you say, we had a very strong period right around the Pennsylvania victory, where we raised $10 million online. Fundraising since then has continued to go well. We are not obviously in a position to outspend Senator Obama. He is clearly in a position to outspend us, but we believe that we do have the resources necessary to compete and get our message out, and I think we will continue to be in that position going forward.
Thank you.
We'll take our next question.
Yeah, Howard, it's Jake Tapper. I'm just wondering about this attack, this mailer on guns, and just if you can clarify what exactly you're saying about Senator Obama and whether or not you're trying to appeal to gun owners, which is an unusual position given the strong belief in gun control that Senator Clinton has exhibited in the past. An NRA official recently called her, said her name was synonymous with gun control, like Rosie O'Donnell. That's it for me.
Thank you. Great. Well, look, there was, as you know, or as some of you know, there was a discussion about gun policy in Pennsylvania. Senator Obama began running negative robocalls against us in rural parts of Pennsylvania, questioning Senator Clinton's position on gun policy. We responded by setting the record straight. And, you know, I do think it is a legitimate issue that Senator Obama said at a debate that he never took the position of supporting a ban on handguns. He was asked this at the ABC debate. He said, I didn't take that position, when in fact not one but two different questionnaires, one with his own handwriting on them, show him checking the box in support of a ban on handguns. Now, it is perfectly reasonable for Senator Obama to say, that was the position I took in Hyde Park. It's not a position that I would take as a presidential candidate. It is not, however, I think it does, however, strain credulity for him to say, I didn't take that position, when not one but two questionnaires show that he has checked a box saying he took the position. One of the questionnaires has his handwriting on it. So I do believe that there are questions about Senator Obama's positions on these issues that need to be resolved. I think, frankly, that is consistent with what we have seen today from Senator Obama on the subject of this issue with the Teamsters. The Wall Street Journal runs a front-page story with a quote from one of our counterparts in the Obama campaign confirming on the record and explicitly that Senator Obama is in favor of removing the consent decree. It's as clear as day. Senator Obama goes on television. He's asked before a national audience, the Wall Street Journal is reporting that you're in favor of removing the consent decree. What's your position? He says, oh, that's not my position. I'm not in a position to flatly say what I would do. So I don't understand how a candidate for president is in a position where the campaign is saying his position on an important issue is one thing, and he goes on national TV and says, no, it's something different. Where you have a candidate who filled out not one but two different questionnaires saying that he was in favor of a handgun ban, and then goes on national TV and says, oh, I never did that. Senator, your handwriting is on one of them. Oh, well, that doesn't matter. That wasn't my position. So, yes, I do think that we could use a little bit more clarity from Senator Obama on these issues. We could use some clarity, especially on the issue of today, which is what is his position on removing the consent decree from the Teamsters. Again, I think reasonable people can agree or disagree on whether that would be good policy to remove it or not. But it is not good policy when a candidate for president at this late date is saying one thing on national television and his campaign is in the newspaper that very morning saying something different. And it's not a good idea for a candidate for president to say, I never took a position on a subject, when there are two different questionnaires, one with his handwriting on them, that suggests that he did with regard to guns.
All right, we'll take our next question.
Hi, it's Ben Smith from Politico. I was curious when Hillary Clinton was talking about Wall Street money grubbers yesterday. How you distinguish the money grubbers on Wall Street from people like, prominent supporters like Steve Ratner, who've made millions at hedge funds, Chelsea Clinton, who works at a hedge fund. What's the, where does the grubbing come in? Where does it not?
Our supporters aren't the grubbers. But seriously, look, I do think that there's been
an easy call for her. She's got a pretty clear standard here. Is that her abiding economic principle is that in America we need to have shared prosperity. So that if someone, whether they work on Wall Street or anywhere else, believes in her view that the right course for America and the best economic course for America is one of shared prosperity, we're glad to have their support. The truth is there are a lot of people on Wall Street who take a much more selfish view of things and operate on the principle of we'll let the people participate in the sacrifice and we'll participate in the benefits at the top end. So this really comes down to what Senator Clinton believes and what she believes in. Her entire economic program is based on this notion of restoring the value of shared prosperity in our economy. And that's really, what we think about, and it's not that there are, in terms of our people who support Senator Clinton, we believe that they probably share her value of shared prosperity. But that's really the standard. It's about her and about her commitment to that.
Just in one separate question, Senator Clinton at a Teamsters endorsement meeting in March of 2007 said that she thought that the union didn't need to go around dragging around the ball and chain of the past in regards to the consent decree, and they called it the world's longest consent decree. Do you think that she made any similar, which she was suggesting that she would also lift it?
What we have said and what Phil said in the paper today is, Phil,
that she made no promises about lifting the decree.
But having said that, Howard jumps back in. She does have concerns about the length of time that the Teamsters have been under the consent decree, and she has expressed concerns about that. And there's nothing wrong with that. Frankly, there'd be nothing wrong if Senator Obama had taken this position and owned up to it. I think it probably would have been better for him to have been explicit about it publicly at the time. Questions could be raised about that, but it is reasonable for reasonable people to agree or disagree on whether or not the consent decree ought to be lifted. And as you point out, Senator Clinton herself has expressed some concerns about the length of time that the consent decree has been over the Teamsters. What I find troubling is a statement in a newspaper that says the position is to lift it, and then a candidate going on television and saying something different. That is not giving the American people accurate information that they need when judging these candidates by. What's Senator Obama's position? Is he in favor of it, as his spokesman said, and as he apparently told the Teamsters? Or has he made no commitment, as he said on national television today? That's a pretty big difference and that I think needs to be resolved.
And I would just add one quick thing, which is that Senator Obama regularly touts his commitment to clarity, how you know where he stands, how there's no confusion. Well, I'm kind of confused. So, I expect that several million people who read the story and saw Good Morning America, as well as the reporters who cover the Obama campaign, are probably confused as well.
And let me just hasten to add that Phil is not somebody easily confused. So if Phil is confused, you can bet a lot of people are confused.
Well, you're too kind.
All right, we'll take our next question.
Yeah, hi guys. This is Nick Giuliano over at Raw Story. I wanted to get back to the sort of the metrics you guys were laying out at the beginning of the call with regard to North Carolina and Indiana coming up. You're talking about how you're closing the gap and coming a lot closer than the polls were 2 weeks ago. And I'm wondering, I mean, isn't this sort of exactly the opposite line that you guys were taking before Pennsylvania, and even the line that you were criticizing Obama for trying to take in terms of we're managing expectations, we're going to come close, if not come over the top? I mean, what's the difference between 1 and 2 weeks?
I want everyone to have the facts. And I think it is a fact that the Obama campaign predicted victory in Indiana and North Carolina. They flatly predicted victory in their document in which they laid out which states would go to which candidate. That victory, that prediction of victory, was reaffirmed yesterday by Joe Andrew. So I just think it's important for everyone to have the facts. The Obama campaign predicted victory in these states. In part, I think they predicted victory in Indiana because they know how much of the state gets the Chicago media, and that's obviously a tremendous advantage for Senator Obama. They know that they had not yet, certainly we have seen that they have not lost any states that are neighboring Illinois. And so, yes, it's important that people know that the Obama campaign predicted victory in these two states, and it's also important to know that there were polls that had Senator Clinton down by as many by 20 points and above in North Carolina. Now, we believe that we've made progress in these places, and we believe that the reason we've made progress in these places is important. We think that a focus on the needs and concerns of middle-class and working-class voters has benefited Senator Clinton. Now, we believe that Senator Clinton is talking about things that voters are responding to, and that's good. That's how democracy should work. But there shouldn't be any confusion about what Senator Obama's expectations were for Indiana and North Carolina. They predicted victories in those states. Their expectations were victory.
And I would say it's important to remember this other difference between Pennsylvania and these two states, which is Pennsylvania was a unique moment in the campaign. It was a 6-week election where both candidates could focus very closely on one state, where Senator Obama had a large spending advantage. I believe he spent around $11 million in Pennsylvania. He knew what the task at hand was. It was an effort there to end the race. He made an all-out effort. Compared to that 6-week campaign where he had a large spending advantage, we really ran a 2-week campaign in Indiana and North Carolina, always outspent in both places, so that this is not these are not exactly comparable situations.
Didn't Obama predict he was going to beat Pennsylvania as well?
Say again? Well, I think the point about Pennsylvania is that Senator Obama there had 6 weeks to accomplish really one mission, which is to change his standing with middle-income and blue-collar voters.
Sure, but I mean,
but it was a 6-week campaign to really where he had every opportunity to accomplish his goals, both financial and time. In these two states, we're operating under very different circumstances. We had much less time to make up the gap, obviously much less money to make up the gap. Look, we feel good about the progress we've made in both states, but they're different, very different circumstances.
But I still don't understand how they're different. I don't understand how his predictions are operative now when they weren't then, and how your progress, you're closing the 20-point gap here is important, where Obama's closing the 20-point gap.
Well, well, we'll see how where it all ends up. In Pennsylvania, he didn't, but I do. Look, you may not take the distinction. I totally accept that. I think there's a huge distinction between a 6-week campaign with a almost 3-to-1 spending advantage and a 2-week campaign where we're still being badly outspent.
I guess, and this is Howard. I guess what I'd say is there was an awful lot of commentary about the fact that we were expected to do well in Pennsylvania, and people were free to write that. I'm just saying if folks want to talk about what both sides' expectations were coming into Indiana and North Carolina, they should note that the Obama campaign predicted they were going to win there. And then you're free or not free to say that is or is not consequential, or is not different or similar to Pennsylvania, but it is a fact that they predicted victory in these 2 states, which seems relevant to me.
All right, thanks, guys.
Yep. We'll take a few more. We've been on for almost an hour. We'll take a couple more.
All right, we'll take our next question.
Hi, it's Brian Tumulty from Gannett News Service. What you were saying earlier about the Teamsters Union reminded me that a lot of the unions that have made endorsements had questionnaires. And I'm wondering if Senator Obama and Senator Clinton would be willing to release the questionnaires that they filled out and what they indicated privately to various labor unions.
I don't know. I'd have to ask her, and I'll let you know. I don't know exactly which unions we filled out questionnaires for. I don't know under what circumstances they were given, and I will check, and I will definitely get back to you.
Thank you.
We'll take our next question.
Yes, Armando Lorenz, Talk Left. With regard to Michigan and Florida, there's been a lot of discussion about the magic number, and it's being pretty universally reported as 2025 as the delegate magic number. Does the Clinton campaign accept 2025 as the magic number? And if not, what will it take? What number of delegates would Obama need to win for the Clinton campaign to accept, if it happens that he is the nominee?
Well, this is Phil. I think that when all is said and done, the number that is going to count is the number that includes all 50 states and includes Florida, and that would entail including Florida and Michigan. I mean, this notion that 48 of the 50 states will have a voice in this nominating process is an affront to the basic principles that our democracy was founded on. And at the end of the day, we assume and expect that the great states of Florida and Michigan will be counted as part of this process, and that we will have a convention where all 50 states are represented. 2.5 million people voted. The idea that their voices would be ignored or discounted is really anathema to what the Democratic Party believes in and what this country is about.
Yes, but if Barack Obama was to acquire 2,209 delegates, total delegates, would the Clinton campaign agree that at that point he becomes the nominee?
I mean, look,
I believe 2,209 is the right number.
I'm sorry?
I believe 2,209 is the number, which includes Florida and Michigan.
I think it's important to let this process play out. I think that there are currently 2 challenges pending before the DNC, and the DNC will adjudicate this process. Our view is that Florida and Michigan must be counted. That's a view shared by many other people in this country, not just in Florida and Michigan, but elsewhere as well, and that it is a disservice to our democracy, to the Democratic Party, and to the American people on the whole to allow this process to play out in a way that only counts the voices of those in 48 states and not all 50.
But are you asking if he has 50+1% of the full universe of delegates?
That's correct. That would, I believe the number, at least it's reported, is 2,209, would include Florida and Michigan. If Clinton achieves 2,209, would she claim victory and say she's the nominee?
Yeah, well, that's what we believe is the standard for deciding this, is that who has a majority of the total number of delegates, including Michigan and Florida, to decide the nomination. And so the point is, we believe that neither candidate will have that when June 3rd, when the last votes are counted on June 3rd. that what will happen on June 3rd is we will have a very close race between Senator Obama and Senator Clinton after all the votes have been counted. We believe that we will have come out of this final period of the campaign with some wind at our backs and some real momentum from March, April, May, and June. But that, yes, that neither candidate will have achieved that standard that you mentioned, which we think is the right standard, and then the process needs to move on to determine who will get to that standard. But
if Obama or Clinton achieved 2,209 some point in June, say June 20th, Hillary Clinton has 2,209 delegates, which I believe is 50.1. She will claim victory, and if Obama achieves that and claims victory, you would agree with that, correct?
Well, I think that this is Phil. I think this is a very interesting academic conversation, but there are two challenges that are pending before the DNC right now that will speak to the fate of Florida and Michigan. We've got to see what happens with those challenges. It's our view that Florida and Michigan should be counted, that all 50 states must have a voice in this nominating process, and we will take it from there. Okay, let's take one last question, please.
All right, we'll take our last question.
Hi, it's Andrea Mitchell, Howard and Phil and Jeff. Did anybody from the Clinton team meet with the Teamsters, and was there ever discussion, that they raised with anyone from your side before the endorsement about the restraint, the oversight?
Well, there was an earlier question that Ben Smith asked. Senator Clinton has,
I heard that.
Senator Clinton has met with the Teamsters. She did express concerns about the duration of the consent decree, but we did not make any promises that we would lift the consent decree.
Did anyone from the Teamsters come privately, at any time after that, before they endorsed Obama? And do you think that there is a quid pro quo? Are you suggesting that there is a quid pro quo on the Obama side?
No, I'm not suggesting that. I am stating that there is no clarity as to what Senator Obama's position is, that there is a disconnect between what his spokesperson said in the newspaper and what he said on TV. And I do find it curious that he didn't announce that this was his position prior to this newspaper article, whatever his position is. But no, we're not alleging anything.
And let me ask you a quick gas tax question. In your commercials on the stump, she's talking about having the oil companies pay for the gas tax. But the sequence would be that, best case from your perspective, there would be a gas tax holiday, and any windfall profits tax would be down the road at best, correct? I mean, there's no question that there would not be a windfall profits tax passed in the short term, and certainly not signed by this president.
Well, we believe that the two need to go hand in hand. We believe that we need to have a relief at the pump, that instead of consumers paying for the gas tax, that the oil companies ought to pay for it, but we believe that it needs to be done in a fiscally responsible manner.
Isn't that fantasy? I mean, the president did say at his news conference that he was open to the idea, and obviously with McCain supporting it, there is a scenario where this might be passed, but there's no way that a windfall profits tax would be passed anytime soon. So aren't you talking about, if your proposal were to get through, you're talking about, in the short term at least, blowing a hole in the deficit?
No, because our proposal has the gas tax holiday linked specifically to the fact that the oil companies would make up the revenue.
If the windfall profits tax is not passed, you would forego the gas tax holiday?
Here's the beauty of the American political process. We are in the midst of a great debate about this issue. Senator Obama has joined the debate. Senator McCain has joined the debate. Senator Clinton has joined the debate. Each one of them have a different point of view on the issue. We believe we have the right point of view. I'm sure Senator McCain believes he does. Senator Obama believes he does. we're going to have an election tomorrow in 2 states that have been hotly contested. Voters there have been following this issue. They've been following this campaign. They've been following the debate. Let's see what they say tomorrow. I believe that the American political process is remarkably adapted to.
Guys, I'm just asking you whether it is truth in advertising, whether it is accurate to suggest that the two would be simultaneous, that one would fund the other.
That is Senator Clinton's proposal, and what I'm saying is, tomorrow voters will have an opportunity to weigh in on this, and our hope is that they weigh in the affirmative, and that will send a very strong signal to policymakers and decision makers and elected officials around the country that this is a proposal whose time has come. I believe, Andrea, that the American political process is remarkably adaptive to public sentiment. That's the beauty of our democracy. Let's see what happens tomorrow.
Do you have any concerns about the data in the New York Times poll, which I grant you is different from in other polls, which shows a remarkable amount of skepticism among people about the reliability of these proposals?
Well, look, I don't know exactly what the New York Times poll said. I think that we will see tomorrow what real voters have to say. This is a proposal that Senator Clinton believes in strongly. She believes that we need to help people now. I don't know, what the New York Times says or doesn't say, and I'm not all that interested in it. We will have an opportunity to see how American voters respond to this policy debate tomorrow. And again, I would say this is a policy debate that says something important about all these candidates.
And if the voters in North Carolina and Indiana want to send a message to Washington that it's time to do something about the high gas prices and make the oil companies pay the gas tax this summer, they have a very powerful way to send that message by voting for Senator Clinton tomorrow.
So it's symbolic, Jeff?
It's
not at all. I think that look, the Congress is still in session, as far as I know. They'll be looking at these results, and if there's a powerful message from the voters in these 2 states, I think that that's a message that will be heard on Capitol Hill.
Yeah, look, Andrea, this is how policy gets made in this country. Candidates for office put forward a set of views, people respond to them, and the American political system responds to the people. I mean, that is the way democracy is supposed to work. And tomorrow we'll have a very good indication of how voters are responding to these various sides in this debate. I mean, this is a debate that has been joined in a major way. It is something that has caught the attention of the public. It's on TV. It's in the news. Senator Clinton has a different position from Senator Obama. She has a different position than Senator McCain. People are following this intently. They'll go to the polls tomorrow. We'll see what they say. And I believe, as Jeff says, that the beauty of our system is people in positions of power do respond to public sentiment. That's how a democracy works. And with that,
thank you.
With that telling, that important praise of our political system, which we all revere and are happy to participate in, I thank you all for joining, and we will talk to you again soon.